So let's start out at the beginning. Tell your story. How did you get into the mob?
It's a pretty lengthy story. When I went to school, I was dyslexic. And I got left back in the 4th grade. And back then, they didn't know what that was. You were either stupid or whatever it was. I went on, and school just wasn't my thing. I got left back again in the 7th grade. I hit a teacher, principal, broke his jaw. Moved from school to school, and I never got past the 8th grade. I never even got into high school. And I joined a gang, the Rampers. And that became part of my life. It was us, like young kids, us against the world. We knew what the mafia was. We stayed away from it. It was a little dangerous to play with them. And when I was 19 years old, I got drafted into the military during the Vietnam War. And I was in good shape, so it was pretty easy for me. I came out with an honorable discharge. I came back out. I went into the Rampers immediately. And I was 21. At 23, a friend of mine's uncle wanted to see me, this guy Shorty, who was in the Colombo family. And he told me, "You're a pretty tough kid. Sooner or later in this neighborhood, you're going to hit somebody or raise your hands and you're going to get killed. You have nobody behind you. We could be your family. We could be behind you. We could bring you in." Words I wanted to hear. Somebody who accepted me as a family member and whatever. And most of my friends while I was in the military hooked up with different families. So I thought it was time for me to hook up, and I did. I stayed there for a while. I knew what the mafia did. I knew about them. But now I was an associate in the Colombo family. I was part of that family. That family went into a mafia war. It was the gallows against Profaci. Profaci had died. It went to Carmine Persico, was Shorty's boss and my boss, and Joe Colombo was the boss. And they told me, "We're going to hit the mattresses." Back then, it wasn't like today, movies. I had no idea what they meant about hit the mattresses. So they said, "You're going to come in, get rid of your girlfriend, get rid of your jobs, get rid of everything. You're going to live with us, eat, sleep, and shit together. We're a pack of wolves. They're a pack of wolves. They're going to try and kill us, and we're going to try and kill them." That was my first experience. I had already done a piece of work. Our boss, Joe Colombo, sent down an order. It's a little bit of a complicated story. This guy, Joe Colucci's wife, had an affair with somebody in the crew. He picked up on it, and he went to somebody in the crew, this guy, Frankie, and he said, "I need your help." Frankie told him, "To do what?" He said, "I want to kill Sammy, and I want to kill Shorty." We all knew what the situation was, and he said, "Why do you want to kill Sammy? He's not going with your wife." And he said, "Shorty, I can't do it, kill Tommy, who's going with my wife, because it's Shorty's nephew. If I do, he'll pick up on it, and who's he going to send to hurt me? Sammy. So if I kill the two of them, there'll be such confusion, and then later on, I'll get Tommy and I'll get my revenge." Frankie didn't buy it. He went to Shorty and told him about this plot. It went up the channel all the way to the boss, Joe Colombo, and Joe Colombo ordered a hit. Shorty grabbed me and told me, "You got this hit. This is your first hit." And he asked me, he said, "What do you need?" I said, "I want your nephew to be on it. He started this whole thing. And I want Frankie on it because I wanted to make sure I wasn't being bullshitted about why would Joe Colucci want to kill me?" So they went with me, and that was my first hit in the mafia. And years later, I had trouble within that family. I tried to kill Shorty's brother, my boss's brother. That's another long story in itself. But the Gambino family the heads of the Gambino family and the Colombo family met. They thought I was right, so they didn't want to kill me. But they wouldn't kill Ralph, Shorty's brother, because he was Shorty's brother. So the deal was that I got transferred over to the Gambino family. The Gambino family was a different family. And the Colombo family beat this guy up, do this, do that, shoot this guy, rob, do this, that. The Gambino family, it was, we're in business, construction, unions, different thing. Not that they couldn't be violent, but they used violence as a last resort. So I was learning now a different way in the mafia. And I excelled in all of these areas. Business, the unions. I was a different kind of gangster. I was involved in violence. I was involved in 3 mafia wars. The first one with the Colombo family, 2 more, one in Philadelphia, and one in New York within the Gambino family when we killed Paul Castellano. I was involved in 19 murders. That doesn't mean I killed 19 people, but I was involved according to law. No matter what part you take in that murder, you're charged with it. I've done 22 years of my life in prisons. So when I talk, I curse a little bit. I apologize for that. If I can't curse, I can't talk. And I don't mean to offend anybody. So my story is a long story. I have a long history in it. To me, as an Italian, the mafia started in Sicily. I'm Sicilian. It went throughout Italy, but it started in Sicily. And for good reasons. During wars, there was clans that started. It was neighbors and friends and people's families to protect their families in wars or invasions of their country. And that eventually became the mafia. And it spread in Italy all over the place. It spread in Europe. And it spread in the United States. So they didn't come here because they liked the United States. They came here because they were running away from Mussolini and World War II mostly. They were against fascism. They hated Hitler. And Hitler and Mussolini hated the mafia in return. And they were killing them, putting them in prison and doing all kinds of things. So they migrated away from Italy into the United States with that same mentality. They brought it here. So I always felt that this is part of my heritage, as twisted as that may sound. But it was part of my heritage. It was people I looked up to most of my life. My mentor, Tato, who I was put with in the Gambino family, was a very, very powerful captain. He was about 25 or 30 years older than me. I'm 77 now, so if he was alive, he'd be about 100 and something. And he would talk to me about his friends growing up. Who was his friends? Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, Vito Genovese. As a kid, listening to him and his friends and his stories, I was stunned. And when my friends would say, Sammy, we're going to go out tonight. I said, no, not me, bro. Why? I heard stories today, and I have to digest this stuff. I can't even believe what I'm hearing. And I learned the life from him, and I felt a strong dedication. My father passed away. He was just the same height, the same build, same personality. And I loved him like I loved my father. And I created the dedication to it. I got made in 1976. And I went in hook, line, and sinker. Whatever I would be asked to do, I would do. I would be loyal to Cosa Nostra, like I was loyal to our country when I went almost ready. I didn't wind up in Vietnam, but if I would have went to Vietnam, I was bullshitted by the government. Communists, they're gonna come in, they're gonna rape your mother, your sisters. I got 2 sisters. I bought all that shit. I bought the mafia stuff as well. And I was just as loyal as I would have been as I was in the military to fight in a war. This was now my government. When I was made in 1976, you took an oath. They cut your finger and took your blood and put it on a saint and put it in your hand, and you would juggle it while it's burning, and you would repeat the oath to him. And this oath said that this was number one in your life, above God, country, family. This comes first in your life. And it was. In my life, I dedicated my life to it, no matter what I had to do, when I had to do it, who I had to do it to. I protected that like I protected. Now, I do believe in God, so it's more or less, it's not above God, not to me anyway. But they're just trying to make you understand how important this is in your life. They told you another thing. If your son is dying in the hospital and we send for you, you leave his side and you come to us. Now, I don't think anybody would ask to do that. But again, they're projecting this loyalty that you have to have. Mm-hmm. And I had it. I still love it today. That may sound a little weird too. I was betrayed. I left the life. That's another story. I'll get to it in a little while. But that's how I started in this. That's how I was in my life. I'm loyal to my family. My ex-wife now has COPD, and I'll take care of her till the day she dies, whether she's my wife or ex-wife. I'm loyal that way. With everything I do in my life. I came here so I could be her a little bit. She's pretty smart. And I've been in business most of my life. I got out in 1995 out of prison on my first bit. I wrote a book in 96, The Underboss, and I went in the witness protection program for 8 months. I didn't want to go into it at all, but they said, you got a real light sentence when you cooperated. You only did 5 years. You're going to make us look bad, so go in the program, and I did. I gave them 1 year of my life. I only wound up being there 8 years. I met someone in the program, and they're not supposed to know who you are. So I violated. They wanted me to start over. I said, no, I'm not starting over. I'm leaving, and I'm going to Arizona where my family was. And there's some stories over there. So my stories, just there's dozens of them. My ex-wife says, but every time there's a crime, when I talk about a story, you were in it. How is that possible? So I said, well, babe, I must have been very active. I was dedicated, I was active. I don't know how I got into all of these things either, but, so I started doing a podcast. When I came out, I do a podcast, I do social media. They're talking to me in Hollywood about doing the story of my life, something like The Sopranos, more truthful, and stuff like that. I was doing, and I'm obsessed with telling the truth. I don't want to lie. I tell the truth of the good things, the bad things, and the ugly things I was involved in. I tell it all. One day my wife said, you're talking about something you did in 1974. I said, yeah. And you were with a woman. Yeah. She said, we were married in 71. You were cheating. I said, yeah. I said, but I don't know if you noticed, there's a statute of limitations in the law. If you don't catch me within a 10-year period, it don't count. So my wife is pretty slick too. So she said, is that really a law? I said, yeah. She said, you remember your friend Lenny? I said, don't you dare tell me about the statute of limitations. So, but she was breaking my chops. We play with each other like that. So we have a good relationship. We didn't have a horrible or a bad divorce. We had a great divorce. I mean, and I would always see her, I still see her now. And it actually wound up good because it's like dating. I call her up, Deb, what are you doing tonight? Oh, nothing. You want to go to dinner? So it's almost like I go on a date with her. It's weird. It's better than being married, I think. So,